Hey guys, so while I was making my previous video about the Stanley number 45 combination plane, I happened to pull this plane off of my shelf to show as an example of planes used about 150 years ago. And I thought this particular plane would make a good video as well. This is a Stanley number 48 tongue and groove plane. And its purpose, as the name suggests, is to make tongue and groove joints. Now, what is a tongue and groove joint? So, before the advent of man-made sheet goods like plywood or hardboard or OSB or things of that nature, if you needed to cover a large surface with wood, your only option was pretty much to use solid, real wood with tongue and groove joints. Now, a tongue and groove joint, I happen to have some here in my shop. If you see here, we've got some pine boards. These are modern boards. They're double-sided, so one side is beadboard, the other side is a flat surface. But here you see a tongue and groove joint. So one edge has a tongue which sticks up, and the adjoining board has a groove which sticks down, and the two mate together. And by doing that, you do a couple of things. One, you increase the overall strength of this wall by locking these individual pieces of wood together. And two, you prevent anything from getting through to the other side. So if you actually sided your house with tongue and groove boards like this, wind-driven water might drive this way, but it would not be able to get through it because the tongue is in the way. And because the tongue is facing up and not down, and the water that does work its way up in here will just come right back out. So Stanley, being the company that made a hand tool for everything, made this ingenious device, the Stanley number 48 tongue and groove plane. It will cut both the tongue and the groove on the edges of boards. One tool that does two jobs. Let me show you how it specifically works. So here's the plane itself. See, there's a handle and a knob, and there's two adjusting knobs here, and these adjust the two blades on the bottom of the plane. See, 1 and 2, and a gap in the middle. Now, how does this one plane cut both the tongue and the groove in the joint? Well, the trick is with this fence, because this fence rotates. So right now, we've got both blades exposed, so that's going to cut the tongue of the tongue and groove. When we want to cut the groove itself, we pull a pin on the front, and then we rotate this 180 and secure it back with the pin, like that. Now, only one blade is exposed, and that will cut the groove in the middle of the board. Now, this plane, being pre-World War II, was designed for a normal thickness of lumber of 7/8 of an inch. That was the standard before the Second World War. After that, the industry switched to 3/4 inch thick stock, which is what we use today. So I can still cut a tongue and groove joint with this old plane on modern 3/4 inch lumber. I just won't have a centered groove. The groove will be pushed a little bit more towards the back of the board, but that's not a big deal, really. So the trick with this, to get a really good joint, is we have two blades here. We're going to run the front of our boards along this fence. And what you want to do is you want the tongue cut on the front of the board to be a little more shallow than the one on the back. So that when the two boards come together, they meet on the front face. So you get a nice tight joint on the front. And a little bit of a gap on the back will ensure that that will happen. So let me set this up and get a couple pieces of lumber here, and I'll show you how quickly you can make a tongue and groove joint with this old plane. Alright, so here's the plane. I'm going to cut this piece of pine. I'm going to cut the tongue first, and this has to be used right-handed. I'm left-handed, I have to use this right-handed, so it's a little awkward. But like most hand planes, when you're cutting a joint like this, you start at one end, work your way to the back, okay? And here we have our joint. Here's the front. Here's the back. And if you can see, it's very close, but the front is just slightly shallower cut than the back. Okay, now let's cut the groove. Again, we've got another piece of pine here. Put it in the vise. Now I'm going to take the fence, rotate this 180 degrees, and now I'm going to cut the groove. The plane has a built-in depth stop, so there's no need to adjust one or make one yourself. So let's see how we did. Got my two pieces of wood here. How's that for a joint? Not too bad. Now, I wouldn't want to do a whole floor worth of lumber having to cut tongue and grooves like this, but if you're making a small project like a cabinet back, or I don't know, something small that you just need solid wood, or you don't want to use plywood or whatnot, one of these little planes can get the job done quite nicely. Saves you a lot of time from having to set up a router table or something like that. So hopefully you found this at least a little bit interesting. If you did, let me know in the comments below. Thanks and have a nice day.